Order. We start with questions to the Minister for Women and Equalities. Tom Gordon.
Question 1, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we set out yesterday afternoon the government's plan to fix a broken system, proper employment support to help hundreds of thousands out of work on health and disability grounds who want to be in a job, dealing with the work disincentive inserted into the benefit system over the past 15 years, and making personal independence payment financially sustainable.
Tom Gordon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In recent weeks, I've been inundated with constituents getting in touch, worried sick about changes to the disability benefit system. Yesterday's announcement goes further than even the Conservatives managed or dared. We know disabled people are already facing systemic barriers in society, from issues with accessing health, transport and housing. And inadequate financial support already means that some of the most vulnerable have to access food banks. These cuts will exacerbate their pain, fuelling hunger and debt. So what assessment has the Department made about these cuts, the impact on finances and the harm they will cause?
Minister.
Proposal made by the previous government to convert PIP from cash into vouchers caused a huge amount of anxiety. We've made it absolutely clear in the announcement yesterday we're not going to do that. But we are going to make changes to ensure that personal independence payment is financially sustainable in the long term. And that's what the changes will assist, and that will reassure a very large number of people for whom PIP is vitally important.
Catherine Smith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Epilepsy is a lifelong disability which has huge consequences on the lives of those who have epilepsy. No more so than the mothers who had epilepsy and took sodium valproate when pregnant and whose babies were harmed. Will the Minister take some time to meet with me and my constituent Janet Williams, whose sons have been affected, to discuss how we can ensure that the quality of their lives is best supported by this government?
Minister.
Well, my honourable friend raises a very important subject. As she knows, the Department of Health and Social Care has set up the Valproate Pregnancy Prevention Programme, or it's been set up by the MHRA, and I or my honourable friend, the Minister at the HSC, will be very glad to meet her to discuss those points.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. We all know that life is more expensive if you are disabled. We know that investing in mental health and social care would give disabled people the support that they deserve. If the government was serious, we believe as Liberal Democrats, about cutting welfare spending, it would get serious about fixing health and social care and the broken department of working pensions. And we know that by fixing that, we'd reduce the benefits bill in the long term. But yesterday's changes, slashing support offered to vulnerable people, will leave many people again facing difficult choices. So can the Minister assure disabled people, including the 80,000 in Scotland who are still receiving PIP, that their needs will be listened to, taken into account, and that they will somehow continue to get the support that they need?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'm sure the Honourable Lady will welcome the additional £26 billion being invested in the National Health Service in the coming financial year for exactly the reasons that she has set out. And the most severely impaired will be protected in the changes that we've made to, we've announced yesterday, to personal independence payment. Yes, we will be consulting. There will be a full 12-week consultation period on the Green Paper proposals, and we'll be listening very carefully to what everybody says in response.
John Grady.
Question number 2, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Mr Speaker, I will answer questions 2, 6 and 14 together. This government is clear that someone's race or ethnicity should never be a barrier to success. As set out in the King's Speech last July, we are committed to introducing mandatory ethnicity and disability pay gap reporting for large employers. These measures will be part of the draft Equality, Race and Disability Bill. Yesterday, we published a consultation on these proposals and also announced that we have established a new race equality engagement group to partner with ethnic minority communities, stakeholders and delivery partners to help shape the government's work on race equality. And I am delighted that Baroness Lawrence of Clarendon has agreed to chair this group.
John Grady.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Glasgow's Muslim community is characterised by its kindness and public service. Last weekend, I visited my friends at the Hillview Islamic Centre in Shettleston, and met with the convener of the Muslim Council for Scotland, Dr. Mohammed Adris. I heard terrible incidents of anti-Muslim hatred and crimes in Glasgow and the west of Scotland. Does my honourable friend agree with me that our Muslim brothers and sisters should not have to live with this hatred? And would my honourable friend set out the steps that the government is taking to combat this hatred?
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I completely agree with him. And indeed, I also attended a wonderful interfaith iftar in Hounslow on Friday. Islamophobia is completely abhorrent and has no place in our society, and no one should ever be the victim of hatred because of their religion or their belief. The government has established a new working group to provide the government with a definition of anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia, advising government and other bodies on how best to understand, quantify and define prejudice, discrimination and hate crime targeted against Muslims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for her commitment to mandatory ethnic pay gap reporting. However, I was very disappointed to see that the FCA and the PRA are rolling back on their proposals to boost diversity in financial services. I feel this decision is risking pushing away the very best talent from the sector. With only 4% of financial services firms currently disclosing their ethnicity pay gap reporting, this announcement would only dampen the pace of change that's needed to tackle inequality. So could I ask the Minister, does she agree with me that initiatives that are aimed to reduce the ethnicity pay gap are not just anti-growth, they are pro-talent and pro-growth as well?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fair and equal treatment at work is a right and not a privilege. Companies like Deloitte, who I visited recently, are also reporting voluntarily on their ethnicity pay gaps. And I've also attended roundtables chaired by organisations like Change the Race Ratio and Share Action, who are promoting the benefits of ethnicity pay gap reporting. And indeed, the progress last week that we saw on the Parker Review is also seeing increasing numbers of ethnic minority board members on our FTSE companies. I agree with my honourable friend that pay gap reporting can help employers to identify and remove barriers to progression within their workforces and unleash talent from all of our communities, thereby supporting economic growth. And I thank her for her work on this also.
Mohammed Yassin.
Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to see the government's announcement of the newly established Race Equality Engagement Group, chaired by Baroness Doreen Lawrence, a tireless campaigner against discrimination for many, many decades. Could the Minister please clarify what steps the government is taking to recognise caste-based discrimination in law and whether this issue will be the focus of the group's work?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and indeed he references the Race Equality Engagement Group that we announced yesterday, and indeed this group will strengthen the government's links with ethnic minority communities, enabling effective two-way dialogue on the government's work to tackle race equalities, engaging on all issues. And we are considering our position on caste discrimination under the Equality Act 2010. We will update the House in due course.
Gregory Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former employee of the NHS, I was shocked to find that the Community Security Trust had found that the number of complaints of anti-Semitism in the NHS had tripled in the 17 months before and after the 7th of October 2023. Can I ask the Minister, what steps is the government taking to crack down on anti-Semitism within the NHS?
Good question. Minister.
He will also agree that anti-Semitism has no place in our society and in our workplace. This is an extremely important issue, and he will know that the Home Secretary and the whole of the government takes this very seriously.
Kirsty Black.
Weekend, a mosque in my constituency was vandalised while worshippers were inside. I'm really pleased that the local community came together and helped in the clean-up. We're aware that the University of Glasgow has published a report that says 1 in 3 Muslim students are victims of Islamophobic abuse. Would the government let us know and agree that the government and the House have got a responsibility to ensure that racist stereotypes are not putting our Muslim community at risk from rising hate crimes and from far-right extremism?
Minister.
She is absolutely right, and it is important that we tackle religious and racial hatred in all its forms.
Wyre Hobhouse.
well as overt discrimination, there are many hidden ethnic disparities, particularly in healthcare. Mortality rates in maternity services are 4 times higher for black women and twice as high for Asian women. What discussions is his department having, her department having, with the Department of Health to address these huge inequalities in maternity care? Minister.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. She is absolutely right. There are stark inequalities within maternal health and also in mental health and a range of other issues, including infant mortality. She is absolutely right that this must be tackled, and there is ongoing work that we're doing across government and with the Department for Health on these issues.
So, Secretary of State Minister.
Does the Minister think it is acceptable for anyone in this country to say, pray for victory of Hamas over Israel, or indeed celebrate the 7th of October attacks as David over Goliath situation? If not, Mr. Speaker, why did the Prime Minister invite Adam Kelwick, who has said such despicable things, to Number 10 just last week? Will she apologise, therefore, on behalf of the Prime Minister to the Jewish community, who need to know this government will actually stand against them when it comes to violence, hatred and division, and in fact all communities when it comes to race, religion, and all communities need to be supported?
Minister.
I thank the Shadow Minister for her question, and indeed she knows that Hamas is a proscribed organisation, and we will not tolerate at any point and in any way anti-Semitism.
Durham Puffy.
Question number 3, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and with your permission I shall group this question with questions 10 and 13. We will deliver a cross-government VOG strategy and are already taking significant steps to make sure VOG is treated as a national emergency that it is. This includes embedding the first domestic abuse specialists in 999 control rooms, starting in 5 police forces under Raneem's law, and extending the further rollout of domestic abuse protection orders in Cleveland and North Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for her answer. A constituent of mine in Southampton, Itchen, suffered horrendous domestic and sexual abuse while she was a serving police officer, but inexplicably she was not allowed by the rules to take her complaint to the IOPC, therefore becoming a victim of the very system that was meant to offer her protection. Does the Minister agree that a woman's right to get justice should not depend on the job that she happens to be doing? And will the Minister meet with me and my constituent to discuss the changes needed so we can better protect dedicated public servants like her?
Minister.
I absolutely agree, and I'm more than happy to meet with him and his constituent. Allegations of any crime involving serving police officers should be investigated robustly and independently by the police. And outside of criminal investigations, disciplinary investigations, including those involving serious assault and sexual violence, are referred to the IOPC under mandatory referral criteria, but there is more to do.
Kevin Bodavere.
Speaker, in my constituency of Stevenage, we have an excellent charity called SADA, Survivors Against Domestic Abuse. Charities like SADA rely on multi-agency working to deliver essential services to those affected by domestic abuse. Will the Minister outline how this government is continuing to support organisations and working closely together to continue to provide effective services to those who have suffered domestic abuse?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend and would like to thank SADA for the amazing work that they do. In December 2024, we prioritised confirming funding for those delivering frontline services, and we will be working in the next few weeks to agree decisions on our wider budget in support of the government's ambition to halve VOG in a decade, which includes delivering on our manifesto commitments.
Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On International Women's Day, our community in Tamworth came together not only to celebrate the achievements of women, but also to reflect on the important issue of women's and girls' safety. local woman Tamana Ann Mackenzie took the initiative to organise a walk and talk event, bringing together key organisations including the Up Creative CIC and Tamworth Street Angels. They've never organised an event before and managed to pull together 50 women in just 2 weeks. Will the Minister join me in congratulating Tamana Ann Mackenzie on this fantastic event and their dedication to raising awareness about such an important issue?
Minister.
Absolutely, gladly. Tamana and Mackenzie deserve all of our praise, and what I would say is that it's infectious, and the first time you do it often leads to the second, and the rising of the women is the rising of us all.
Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure we all agree that securing women's well-being is key to tackling violence against women and girls. So can the Minister assure women across my South West Devon constituency and across the country that, having promised to prioritise women's health, that the Labour government is committed to continuing the previous Conservative government's work to ensure that there is a women's health hub in every integrated care board to ensure holistic support for women?
Minister.
My Minister to my left tells me that they are in 9 out of 10 already, and what I can assure her is that I am working very closely with the Department of Health on the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy, because actually there are real gaps in how domestic abuse, sexual violence and other related abuses are dealt with by our health services, and it will form an absolute fundamental part to both protection and prevention.
Lock up.
And can I thank the Minister for her answers, and can I thank her for her ongoing engagement on this issue with the people in Northern Ireland. The name Natalie McNally will mean much to the Minister. On the 18th of December, Natalie McNally, along with her unborn baby, were brutally murdered in my constituency in Upper Bann. Can she update the House on ongoing discussions around a UK-wide strategy for tackling violence against women that will improve conviction rates, get tougher on sentencing and provide more support for the victims? And we do this in the name of Natalie and the many that have lost their lives.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her continued support of Natalie's family, and while I was over in Northern Ireland, that was very, very clear for me to see that support had been in place. What I will say to her is that the fundamental part of halving violence against women and girls has to be looking at the exact issue she is talking about, and that is the femicide of women, and how we can all work together in a multi-agency way to ensure that names like Natalie McNally are not ones I have to read out.
So Roger Gale.
Mr. Speaker, would the Minister discuss with the Home Secretary how best those still surviving who aided and abetted Mohammed Fayed in the rape and sexual assault of young women and girls be brought to account, even belatedly?
Minister.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, and would like to say that this is something that myself and the Home Secretary have very much discussed. And while there are ongoing police investigations, it would be inappropriate for me to make any further comment. However, having met with some of those affected, I want to see exactly what he wants to see.
Chair of the Committee, Sarah Owen.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister and many colleagues in this place will be aware of the groundbreaking new Netflix programme called Adolescence. It's chilling, but is rightfully forcing a national conversation about the dangerous content seen by young men and boys with fatal consequences. Given the important role schools play in preventing violence against women and girls, will the Minister provide an update on what is being done with the Department of Education to counter misogyny and extreme violence to enable a safe future for young boys and girls?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and she is absolutely right that including men and boys in the conversation about how we prevent future violence against women and girls is going to be absolutely fundamental, and a huge portion of the new Violence Against Women and Girls strategy is focused exactly on that, on prevention and what we can do in our schools, our workplaces and elsewhere to reach men and boys to change the future.
Ellen Morgan.
My constituency who are victims of domestic violence, and their partners continue to exert control over them through the family court process and the presumption that they will be able to access their children. Will the Minister meet with me or inform me what she's doing with the Department of Justice to help those women escape that control?
I work hand in glove with my counterparts in the Ministry of Justice on the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy, and I have long-standing concerns, as she has, around the presumption of contact and the issue of the family court. It will form part of reforms and is currently being looked into. I will gladly meet with her.
Secretary of State, Ms Davis.
In January, the Labour government committed they would be assisting 5 local inquiries, including one in Oldham, into grooming gangs and rape gangs. Mr Speaker, now 2 months on...
Carry on, Secretary of State.
You should know better than that.
In January, the Labour government committed they would be assisting 5 local inquiries, including one in Oldham, into grooming and rape gangs. Mr Speaker, now 2 months on, we've had no update from the government about the other locations. So in which towns can women and girls now sleep safely in their beds? And when and where are the other 4 inquiries going to take place? And what does the government plan to do about the other 45 towns and cities across the country where these gangs have reportedly operated?
Minister.
Well, what the government plans to do across the country is more than was done before. And what I would say is that the House should expect an update very soon on exactly all of the plans, as the Home Secretary, when she laid out her plans, that it would come before Easter. And I beg of the Honourable Lady the patience she offered her own government when they offered none of this.
We come to Topical Charlotte Nettles.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. According to research, 52% of topical one.
Topical.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this government celebrated International Women's Day and Women's History Month by accelerating action to change women's lives. This means greater opportunities in the workplace, ensuring our streets are safe for women and that we have better public services for our women and their families. Harnessing the talents and skills of all women will boost our economy. A 5% increase in employment amongst women could boost the UK economy by up to £125 billion. Women's equality is at the heart of our plan for change and will drive economic growth for everyone.
Charlotte Nettles.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. According to research, 52% of ICBs in England, including Cheshire and Merseyside ICB, still require same-sex couples to self-fund at least 6 to 12 cycles of costly intrauterine insemination before they're eligible to access IVF treatment on the NHS. So could the Secretary of State please tell us what she is doing to end the postcode lottery for lesbian and bi couples looking to start a family?
Minister. My honourable friend is right to draw the House's attention to the postcode lottery and the patchy access to IVF across our country. We want to make sure that everyone has fair access to high-quality care. DHSC have started to make progress towards their ambition to improve access to IVF services, and we also await the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence concluding its review on clinical guidance for the provision of such services.
Shadow Minister Sakibati.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Speaker. Parents up and down the country are anxious about the use of puberty blockers on under 18, so I was disappointed to read that the Health Secretary has failed to intervene in an NHS puberty blocker trial, despite grave concerns about children's safety. I know the landmark CAS review said more evidence was needed, but I asked the Secretary of State, will she show moral courage and common sense leadership to ensure that these dangerous and irreversible drugs are never tested on our children?
Mr Speaker, the government's position on this has been clear. We have accepted all of the recommendations brought forward by Dr Hilary Cass. I have met with Dr Hilary Cass to discuss this, but I'm afraid to say the Shadow Minister perhaps misunderstands the recommendations that Dr Cass brought forward, given the question that he's asking today.
Peter Lamb.
Mr Speaker, could I ask the Minister what consideration has been given to the introduction of domestic abuse safe leave for employees experiencing domestic abuse?
Minister.
We strongly encourage employers to support their employees who experience domestic abuse. Many already do this through their membership of the Employers' Initiative on Domestic Abuse, which empowers employers to take action. The VOG strategy, along with myself, will be working with the DBT to look at issues specific to victims in the workplace.
Bob Blackman.
Will the Minister update the House on what changes, if any, she intends to make to the Equality Act 2010, and in particular, if she is going to make caste a protected characteristic, will she ensure that people of all religions that emanate from the Indian subcontinent are consulted, because this will severely impact every single family in this country?
Mr Speaker, we have no plans to change the Equality Act, as my honourable friend set out earlier through the new race engagement group being led by Baroness Lawrence. We will consider any such questions, such as the ones that he identifies.
Melody Dion.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. After an appalling rape incident on the Fuller Street Bridge in my constituency, I was shocked to find that last year only 2.7% of recorded rapes in the UK resulted in a charge. What is the Minister doing to improve this charge rate and get justice for more survivors of this appalling crime?
I'm very sorry to hear of the case in my honourable friend's constituency, and it brings into sharp focus the need to tackle violence against women and girls and to ensure that our mission to halve violence against women and girls is delivered. The inheritance that we had from the Conservatives was shocking. Far too many women denied justice, cases never getting to court, or victims being left to wait for years for justice. That's why the Lord Chancellor has made this a priority to take action to deliver justice for women.